Well, I want to welcome you to Daring Faith, the next chapter. Good to see everybody here in the auditorium and those of you sitting in the atrium and also watching online. And Daring Faith, the next chapter is going to be an 8-week series, 8-week campaign. And really, I think this is one of the longest that we've done. And you may be asking, why 8 weeks? And that's because there is so much that we can learn together about faith. And Daring Faith is about us not missing out on the adventure God would have for us. If we're honest, very often we sit back, we play it safe, we miss the adventure, the life that God would have us live. That's what we're going to be talking about for 8 weeks. And I want to begin today with a question. And the question is, what do you think is the most dangerous object in your home? Think about that for a moment. Most dangerous object in your home. And there's a guy by the name of Larry Loudon, professor at University of Hawaii, wrote a book on risk, and he devotes an entire chapter to household dangers. And some of them are very expected. You know, he says 460,000 people get injured every year with kitchen knives. Not surprising. He says 100,000 people go to the emergency room every year because of accidents with manual or power saws. That's why I don't allow tools anywhere near my house. We don't have those kinds of things at our house. But here was kind of an odd one. He talks about this. He says over 4,000 people seriously injure themselves every year on pillows. Now, he doesn't say how it happens. I don't know. Anybody here ever get injured by a pillow? Oh, what did you do? Zip yourself up in it or something? I don't know how it happens. Why don't you turn to the person next to you? Tell them what you think the most dangerous object in your home is. Go ahead, tell somebody. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on this one, but I'm going to show you what I think is potentially the most dangerous object in your house. And this is what it is right here. This is it. Take a look at this. It's a chair. And that's not just any chair. This is actually my IKEA comfy chair right there. That's an easy chair. That's what we want, an easy chair. That's a Danish lazy boy right there. And we like those kind of chairs, don't we? Because what do we want to experience in life? Comfort. It's cool looking, but we buy it for comfort. And I'm going to show you why I think it's the most dangerous object. And so I'm going to paint a picture, and I'm going to need a volunteer to come up here so that I can paint this picture, why it's so dangerous. And this is going to be, thank you, come on up. This is going to be the easiest volunteer job in the history of the world. So come on up, and your name is? Thor. This is Thor. Let's welcome Thor. Don't sit down yet, Thor. I got to explain what you're going to do. Your job now is to immerse yourself in comfort. By the time we're done with this little exercise, you're going to set a new bar for everybody to see here what it means to be comfortable. I want you to appear to be the most relaxed, comfortable person any of us have ever seen, okay? So go ahead, start it out, take a seat. No, right here. Yeah, no, not yet. Don't steal my thunder. Yeah, just sit back like that. Okay, how's that feel? Pretty good? Take your shoes off. I do have something to make you feel more comfortable. Right here, I got some slippers for you. Those will feel good. Those have never been worn, hardly. And so go ahead, put those. Oh, I almost forgot this. I got a footstool for you. Man, you're doing real good. Put your feet up, sit back. Wow, you are looking very good. Hey, guys, could we dim the lights a little bit, make Thor feel real? Oh, yeah, nice. You're feeling comfortable right there? Hey, we've got some, you know, when you're sitting in a chair like that, you want something to eat. And there's a special kind of food for comfort. What's it called? Comfort food. So what I've got for you, if you would like, I got, here's a scone I picked up this morning, a cookie. You can eat that right here or take it with you. I also have got a hot chocolate. Go ahead, nice. Yeah, very good. Now, man, you are doing really well. You look really comfortable. You're relaxed. Now, when a person is sitting in a chair like this, comfortable and relaxed, they always have something in their hand. Do you know what that is? The remote. Right, remote control. Go ahead, hold that. Wow, huh? Is that good? That is good. You know what? He looks like he's done this before, doesn't he? He looks like he's a pro at this. Yeah, and we've got a couple other things to make you feel comfortable. This chair does not just hold you up. Just lean here. I got something here. Oh, it's got a massage unit on it. Is that nice, right? And when somebody's comfortable, you know what could make them even more comfortable? A little music. Jess, could you help? Are you here? Jess, can you help us out with some music? Come on out. Yeah, maybe play something here for little Thor to relax to. Can you do something? Go ahead, play something for him. Nice. You're doing good. He is relaxed. Now I want to ask you right now, does little Thor look like somebody that's ready to spring into action? Does little Thor look like somebody that if somebody's in need, he's going to help them and even know about it? You know, does little Thor look like he's ready for an explosion of growth? If God were to ask little Thor to do something very difficult, you think he's ready? Do you think little Thor right here would even stay awake for my message if we left him in the chair? No. So little Thor, you got to go. You're done. Come on, you got to get up. Get up. Let's hear it for him. You can take that with you. Man, you did very good. Outstanding job. Thank you. You can take that food with you. Very good. Excellent. Excellent job. And I'll tell you why that is so dangerous. You know, it isn't what happens in the chair. It's what doesn't happen when we're sitting in the chair. The relationships that don't get deepened. People in need that we don't help because we don't even see them. The great, desperate, urgent prayers we don't pray. Those kinds of things. The battles that were called the fight that we never fight. That kind of thing. Noble thoughts that we don't think. The run we were meant to run in life, we don't run. Songs we don't sing. Tears we don't shed. The adventure of life we don't experience. That's the danger of that. And you and I were meant for something more than safety and comfort and security that we all like to live in. Do you know what we were made for? We were made for a daring partnership with God. That's when we're fully alive. Scientists did a study, UC Berkeley, a few years ago. They took an amoeba, put it in an ideal environment. Everything was perfect. Ideal amounts of food, moisture, ideal lighting, heat, so on. The little amoeba had no problems, no demand, no pressure, no stress. You know what happened to the little amoeba? It died. It died. Scientists have found this thing about living creatures. It's demands, challenges, changes that are absolutely essential to life. It's in the process of changing and meeting demands, facing challenges. That's when we grow. That's when we become fully alive. And too much comfort for anything, it's lethal. Not only for an amoeba, but for human beings created in the image of God. And daring faith is going to be about living that life of adventure that God has called us to. And a little disclaimer about daring faith. This is not a series about, doing something stupid or impulsive. This is not going to be about going over Niagara Falls in a barrel, bungee jumping, driving a smart car, playing the stock market, doing something stupid. It's not what it's about. It's about making our ordinary life an adventuresome partnership with God where we wake up every morning and we say, God, what do you want me to do today? And then we do it. That's what it's about. And in the Bible, there's this very common kind of encounter between God and people. When God calls a person to do something, challenges them with a task, with an assignment, and this happens so often, this pattern, in the Old and New Testament, biblical scholars call it call narratives. And there is these components that are repeated over and over when God calls someone. And I'm going to run through those components because I believe God is calling all of us, challenging all of us individually and as a church to do God's work in the world, to make a difference. So I'm going to run through these components, and you can write them down if you would like. Here's the first thing that happens to people. God issues a challenge to people. A challenge. All these stories in the Bible, they begin with God asking somebody to do something. Jesus said many times, follow me. Follow me. And God issues that challenge to you, to follow him like never before. And here's another question I have for you. Those of you that know much about the Bible, when in the Bible did God ever interrupt somebody's life and challenge them with an easy job? I mean, how often did that happen? God interrupts somebody's life. He goes, I got an assignment for you. You can do it real quickly, and it will not cause much demand on your life at all. Anybody want to make a guess how often that happens? Rough guess? Never. That never happens. Never. God never does that. God never asks anybody to do an easy job. There's a chapter in the Bible, Hebrews 11, summarizes the life of one person after another, where God interrupts their life, challenges them, gives them something real hard to do. God comes to Noah. He says, I want you to build an ark in the face of ridicule and restart the whole human race. God comes to Abraham. He says, I want you to leave the country you're living in. Everything you know. Go to a faraway country. I'll tell you when you get there. And get this, when you're 99, you're going to start a family. You're going to have a son. God comes to Joseph. He says, I want you to remain faithful to me. When your brothers betray you, when you get thrown in prison, you become a slave. God comes to Moses. He says, I want you to leave your life of comfort, shepherding. I want you to go back to Egypt where you're wanted for murder. And I want you to confront Pharaoh. God called all kinds of people. God never calls people to an easy, comfortable life. Hebrews 11 describes the lives of people that said yes to God's challenge. Listen to this. Hebrews 11, 32 through 39. You can read it on your own. But it says this, and what more shall I say? I don't have time to tell you about Gideon and Barak and Samson, and Jephthah and David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of flames, escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, who became powerful in battle, routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead. Others were tortured. Some faced jeers and flogging. These are real people here, while still others were chained and put in prison. They were stoned, sawed in two, put to death by the sword. They went about in sheepskin, goatskins, destitute, persecuted, mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts, mountains, in caves, and holes in the ground. They were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. Not in this life, anyway. And after reading words like that, how high a value do you think God places on making sure people feel real comfortable in life? Not much. Not much at all. God creates us in his image, loves us intensely, wants you to grow in your faith, become a courageous person of wisdom and goodness. But God, from the stories of the Bible, he's not particularly concerned that our lives are comfortable. And it's real important for us to understand, because we live in a world where comfort is like the highest value. That's what we're taught we're to pursue our whole life. We're to buy at any cost. Some people come to me sometimes. They say, John, I followed God. I said yes to God. My life was not comfortable. I said, I followed God, said yes to him. I didn't live a life of security, comfort, and I didn't become wealthy. And they feel betrayed by God. God never promised that stuff. Never promises that stuff. So God challenges people. That's the first thing. Usually with something very difficult. That's the first thing in these stories. Here's the second thing. People respond. When God challenges a man or a woman, they respond directly to God. And for those of you familiar with the Bible, again, God interrupts somebody's life, challenges them with a hard assignment. How often does a person say back to God something like, oh, wow, God, what a great opportunity. Man, you want me to confront Pharaoh? You want me to take on the Midianites? Want me to spend a night in a lion's den? Walk through a fiery furnace? Marry a woman that's pregnant, says she's a virgin? You want me to face jeers, beatings, chains? Get thrown in prison? Fabulous, God, what a challenge. What a great challenge you've given me. Could you supersize it for me? Almost never do people respond that way. How do people respond? They experience fear. They're scared to death. Sometimes it's fear of inadequacy. God comes to this guy Gideon. He says, I want you to save my people from the Midianites. They're your enemy. I want you to lead your people into battle against them. Look at Judges 6, verse 15. But Lord, Gideon said, how can I save Israel? My clan's the weakest in Manasseh. I'm the least of my family. God, I'm not adequate for this. I can't do this. I can't do it. You talk about dysfunctional families. My family's the most dysfunctional on the planet. I'm the least functioning person in my family. Sometimes it's fear of failure. God asked Moses, this is in Numbers 13, and his scouts to explore the promised land. They come back, 8 out of 10 say, we could never take that land. Those people there are so big, they'd devour us. We can't do it. We got to go back home. We'd fail. Fear of failure. Exodus 3 is maybe the classic case in this. God challenges Moses to confront Pharaoh, to free the Israelites. Moses is so scared, he says no to God 5 times. 5 times in a row, he makes an excuse. He can't do it. And I mention this because sometimes people say, God had never asked me to do something that I'd be scared to do. God would never ask me to do something I can't handle. I go to the contrary. In the Bible, God almost always asks people to do something they can't handle on their own. Max Dupree says, never insult somebody by giving them an easy job. And God never does. God challenges somebody to do something. Their first response, it's always they're like scared to death. So if God is challenging you with something in your life right now, and you're scared, but you know if you walk down that road, you would grow. You would grow, and maybe it would help a whole lot of people, make a difference in this world. Be real careful if you say no to that challenge. That challenge could be coming directly from God. I'll go a step further. If you're not facing a challenge that seems too big for you, if you've not been scared by a challenge in a real long time, it's possible you've been spending too much time in the chair. That's what's happening. I've never known anybody with a deep, bold faith in God that led an easy, comfortable, challenge-free life. Never have. Never. Nobody gets to the end of their life. They look back on their life. They go, man, those days in the chair, boy, those were my best memories. I never meet anybody like that. None. So God challenges people. People respond. How do they respond? They're scared. They feel inadequate. Here's the next component. God offers reassurance to them. Striking thing about these stories. People almost always respond with resistance. They're scared. But you know what? God never reacts by saying, oh, I'm sorry. I see that what I'm asking you to do would be real scary for you. Don't worry about it. I'll get somebody else. God knows people get scared. But God makes a promise. God says to Gideon, Judges 6:12, when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. That's something to underline. The Lord is with you. God says to Joshua these magnificent words. Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. Why? Because the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Some of you need to write those words down. Some of you need to write those words down, carry those words with you all week long, wherever you go. And it's very important that we understand what this promise means. This promise doesn't mean we say yes to God, nothing bad will happen to us. That's not the promise. The Apostle Paul said yes to God, and he went on the adventure of a lifetime, and bad things happened to Paul. This is in 2 Corinthians 11. Paul's reviewing his life. He says, 5 times I received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, danger from bandits, danger from my own countrymen, danger in the city, in the country, at sea. I've labored and toiled. I've gone without sleep. I've known hunger and thirst. I've gone without food. I've been cold and naked. God never promises. You follow him, your life will be easy. No, you might suffer. You might get hurt. You might die. Those of us that follow Jesus with our life, we follow in a faith in which countless people have given their lives, and they give their lives for their faith today around the world. That's this faith. But what's the promise that gets made over and over? You know what the promise is? It's in Romans 8:39. Nothing can separate us from God's love. That's the promise. Paul writes, I'm convinced neither height nor depth, angels or demons, powers, principalities, danger, nakedness, famine, the sword, nothing. Nothing will be able to harm me. Nothing will be able to separate me from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. See, I know God's with me all the time. I know God will guide me in this life, and I'll be with God eternally in the next life. And because God took away all eternal risks, that means we can take every risk in this life. And we need to. We need to. Greg Lavoie put it like this. He says, Jesus promises his followers 3 things. They'll be absurdly happy, entirely fearless, and always in trouble. Absurdly happy, entirely fearless, and always in trouble. I go, that's pretty much the way it is. That's pretty much the case right there. So God challenges somebody. Person responds, they're scared. They're scared. God reassures them, I'll be with you. Here's the 4th component. It's decision time. Decision time. You got to decide. This is what really matters when God challenges us. Not whether we're scared or feel inadequate. Of course we are. What matters is our decision. Whether we say yes or no to God. And remember, only the people that say yes go on the adventure of being fully alive. Only people that say yes. And so what's your challenge today? Maybe you face a relational challenge. Maybe you know you should speak the truth to somebody. You're scared to death to do it. Maybe you're in a relationship that's stagnant. Maybe your marriage. Your challenge is to have a courageous conversation with that person. Maybe your challenge is maybe God's calling on you is to go to a different job, new job. But you haven't pursued it because you're afraid. Maybe you're holding on to your money right now. God's challenged you to give some of it up, but you're holding on to it. You want to buy a real expensive chair with the massage unit on it. That's what you want. God's calling you to give it away. Give some of it away to make a difference in this world. difference in people's lives. Maybe the challenge is to develop a relationship with someone in your life that you could share your faith with. Maybe it's somebody that you can invite to Crossroads where they could hear about what God's plan is for their life. Maybe for some of you, it's an addiction that you have. You're scared to death for anyone to find out about it. So you never go into recovery. Never come out to celebrate recovery here on Friday night. Take a lot of courage to say yes. Maybe you're going through a time of deep pain or loss in your life. Deep pain or loss. And your challenge is just hang on. Just to hang on. I think God's asking all of us, get out of the chair and say yes. And I'll tell you why it matters so much. This is the fifth component, the last one. You know what the result is? A changed life. That's the result. Every story, God ends up calling somebody. There ends up being a changed life. Every time you say yes, especially in a difficult situation, you change a little bit. Your faith gets deeper. You get a little more courageous. But sometimes in the Bible, people say no to God. Once, I think of a rich young ruler. He came to Jesus once. He was sincerely interested in what Jesus was teaching. And Jesus challenged him. Matthew 19:21. Go, sell your possessions, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. Jesus says, I want you to sell everything you've got. Give it to the poor. It's going to be amazing. There were people who went to bed hungry last night. They're not going to be hungry because of you. There's mothers that are filled with worry, aggravated because their babies are starving to death. They're not going to starve anymore because of you. All that stuff you got, go give it away. Give it away. Come back to me. We're going on the adventure of a lifetime, trusting God together. It's going to be unbelievable. There's people going to be blessed because you're going to be the one to bless them. And your growth, it's going to go off the charts. Come on, let's do it. The rich young ruler stood there in Jesus' presence. I don't know how long. He thought about what Jesus was asking him to do. And he had a lot of money. He had a lot of power. He had a real nice chair. He didn't want to give it up. He didn't want to leave it. So look at what he says, Matthew 19:22. When the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had great wealth. He said no. He walked away. Sometimes I wonder what happened to that guy. I'll bet he lived to be a real old man. I'll bet people thought he was a terrific success. Very respected, very wealthy. I'll bet he was very religious. Nobody knew, though, when his great chance came, Jesus offered him the challenge of a lifetime. He wouldn't get out of the chair. Either way, you get called by God. You're never the same. God asks you to do something, you say no. Your heart gets a little colder. You get a little harder of hearing. Your faith gets a little weaker. You get a little more addicted to the chair. And it's less likely you're ever going to get out of it, and your spirit dies a little bit. So will you say yes? If God's challenged you to do something, will you say yes to him? Remember, God will be with you. And God will give you the energy, the talent, the ability, the people, the networks, the money, the resources, the contacts, whatever you need. Because where God challenges, God provides. That's Philippians 4:19. One of my favorite verses in the Bible. My God will fully supply whatever you need in accord with his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. My God will supply whatever you need. God says, I'm challenging you. God's challenging Crossroads in this Daring Faith series. God's saying, he's challenging all of us individually as a church. He's saying, I want you to be my light in the world. I want you to be my salt, my ambassadors where you are. I want you to light up the darkness. I want to shine through you. What a calling. What a challenge. What matters is our response. We're going to say yes or no. And what separates a great church from a church becomes stagnant and dies? You know what it is? Their willingness to push the envelope, willingness to risk, willingness to say yes and be uncomfortable for the cause of Christ, to expand the kingdom of God. And that's what I'm going to pick up talking about next week in Daring Faith. Talk about the challenge for us as a church. And here's what I'm asking you to do this week. I'm going to ask you to do 4 things around the bottom of the message notes. But here's what they are. Number 1, watch and discuss the 6 videos we made about faith. And our teaching pastors, we did the teaching on the videos, we recorded them. I did the first one. That'd be the first one you'd watch. It's on faith, a continuation of like this message. And you can watch those in a life group, sign up today. A Wednesday night atrium group right here, drop in. Or you could start a group, as Dennis said. But get in a group. I think it's important to not just watch the videos alone, but to discuss them with somebody. And so if you want to start a group, you got yourself, you go to one person. You go, hey, you want to watch some videos on faith with me for 6 weeks? And then you go, how about each of us find one person? Now you got 4. Jesus said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, that's where I am. You don't need 10, 15 to have a life group, or 8. Just start one. Start one. That's the first step of Daring Faith. Make a commitment, get in a life group, come to an atrium group Wednesday, start a group. Here's the second thing. Read the daily devotions that are in that workbook that you can pick up for free. They're very inspirational, and you read those every day. There's a great, inspiring one each day. Number 3, be here on the weekends to listen to all these 8 messages during this campaign about faith. And the last one, number 4, is to carry the Bible verse, the memory verse with you that is provided in the workbook each week. This next week, it's what I'm going to talk about in the video. It's Hebrews 11:6. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. And so those are the 4 things I'm asking you to do from this. And I don't know if I've ever been more excited about a series, 8 weeks, than this Daring Faith series. And I can hardly wait to see what God is going to do. In our lives, I think God's going to stretch us, challenge us, deepen our faith, strengthen our faith during this time. I hope you sign on for all of it. Let's bow our heads together. Let's pray together. And I want to invite you, take a moment and just acknowledge to God that there's some fears in your life that are holding you back from saying yes. Yes to God. Maybe in a relationship, or maybe you even got a diagnosis that's created anxiety in you. And your next step is, you're saying yes is, I'm trusting God more than I'm trusting the power of death. Maybe you have a new sense of calling. It's created anxiety in you. Maybe you got a task in front of you, it just feels too big. God, right now, we give all our anxiety, all our reluctance to say yes, we give it to you. And we ask you'd be at work in our lives. And God, I pray you'd use Daring Faith to challenge our church and to stretch our faith, and so that we might be more of the people, more of the church that you want us to be. And if you're someone that's never opened your life to Jesus Christ, then your yes is to just say, Jesus, as much as I know how, I open my life and my heart to you. And I want to learn to trust you, and I want to learn to follow you. And today I put my entire faith, all that I have, I put in you. In Jesus' name, amen.